We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome in. It's a Wednesday morning on the Roundtable here on WGNS. Chip Walters with you from Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates, and the Blue Raider Network, which is a busy bunch of folks today. Coming on at 10:30 today, Joe Fisher will have the Lady Raider game against SIU Edwardsville, and then tonight, men's action as the Blue Raiders take on Rhodes College at Murphy Center, and of course the 11 o'clock game this morning for the women is the City Schools game. There will be 6,000 or so elementary school kids in Murphy Center having a big time and enjoying all of that. And, of course, on Saturday, both teams play a doubleheader at Belmont, the women at 12 and the men at 2:30. And, of course, also on Saturday, Brian Barrett will be in Chattanooga for the Blue Cross Bowl as the Oakland Patriots will be playing for yet another state championship. Today we're going to go back on campus and welcome in Mary Beth Asbury, and she is a professor of communication studies. And first of all, Mary Beth, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Glad to have you in here. I happened to catch you on Channel 2 one day.
Yeah.
Talking about the MTSU segment on Local on 2, and we're talking about communications during the holidays and things like that. And I said, that's something we can really take a deep dive into and kind of go into some things. But first of all, kind of give us an idea, because I think a lot of times when people think, oh, communications at MTSU, it's going to be the old mass comm department, right, which is now the College of Media and Entertainment, but you are a whole different area. So kind of talk about that, what it is.
We are in the College of Liberal Arts, and we actually study human interaction. So we teach a lot of things like interpersonal communication, which is a class basically dedicated to relationships and how to have successful relationships. And then we also have classes in workplace communication. So we have a class just on interviewing, so that you go into the workplace knowing how to answer questions, knowing how to build a resume, knowing how to network, those things. We also have classes about persuasion and rhetoric, and as well as health communication. So all of these things are what we cover in our discipline, which again is focused on human interaction and not necessarily mass comm.
Yeah. So, and you all are based in the College of Liberal Arts.
We are. Yes.
For folks, there's so many of us who have gone, and graduated from middle. Where are most of your classes held? Are they in? They are all over the place.
They're all over the place. We do have primary classrooms in Boutwell Dramatic Arts, BDA, okay, and then the rest are kind of where we can put them. We do have the general education class of public speaking, so we do require a lot of classrooms just to meet that requirement.
Okay, and with the interpersonal communications, and you were like I said, where I saw you on Channel 2, you were talking about communicating with your family during the holidays, because yes, it's fun. Sometimes it can be awkward. Sometimes, and in a year where you have an election cycle, it can get even a little more awkward and cantankerous,
spicy, as we call it.
Yeah. So what kind of led you down that path to start thinking about that?
About family communication.
Yeah.
So I got into it because I started looking at research from my dissertation that I wrote way back when. And what I found was that people tended to talk about how family messages were important and ingrained. And that's really what they carried forward with them. Like, they could hear things from other people, but if someone in their family said something one time, that sticks with them forever. And so we have to be very careful about what we say, how we say it, when we say it, because it just leaves a lasting impression. And sometimes that creates an identity for us. Like, if somebody tells us, you are not smart, we often start to believe I'm not smart, and then we behave in ways that tell us we're not smart. So words are powerful, and that's sort of why I got into this in the beginning, was because I wanted to find ways to encourage others and to create the life that builds people up rather than breaks people down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you know, and particularly in this time of year, last week, of course, was Thanksgiving week, and now here we go headlong into all these different Christmas and holiday events, whether it's with people, you know, your professional organizations, networking events, those kind of things, or simply when you're spending several days with your family, and it's, you know, it is important.
You're right. And the thing about family communication is everybody's got a family, and everybody's family is unique, and nobody's family is perfect. And, you know, there are ways that we can do better in our family communication, and, you know, and how we handle conflict and how we respect others' views. And especially at the holiday season, that can get really, really taxing on people. And some people often decide it's not even worth me going to see my family because of the communication. So, you know, it's a very important topic to cover. I teach a class just on family communication at MTSU, and we cover all of those things in that class.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times, you know, as families have grown up and you've got more adults than you have kids, unless they're grandkids or whatever, that, you know, you're not spending tons of time with your family throughout the year. You're getting into small doses, and then all of a sudden here in the holidays, you're getting, you know, several days in a row,
right?
And sometimes, you know, you have to navigate, you know, the shark infested waters a little bit.
Exactly. And especially with the last election, we see a lot of family conflict. We see a lot of people saying things they might regret later. And sort of the number one rule I tell people about conflict, especially in families, is make sure that you time the conflict appropriately. If somebody is cooking a bunch of food and wrapping a bunch of presents and they look like they're about to pull their hair out, maybe that's not the best time to bring up something. But also, you know, is what you're going to say to them going to destroy the relationship? Because sometimes you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to destroy this relationship in order for me to be right? Or does it even matter in the long run?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said there, you know, with the election cycle that just went through, you're probably going to have, you know, some family members who were, you know, for one candidate, probably have some that were for another candidate or the other side, whether it was whatever election, whichever one of the offices that were up there. And you know, I think a lot of it does come back to respect and also a whole nother thing we're going to get into is how people talk to each other in person as opposed to digital communications. Everything from text messages to social media or whatever. They seem to get real bold with their when they are keyboard cowboys and cowgirls. But you know, in public, it all sometimes calms itself down. Am I somewhere on the right track?
You are correct. We find that when people are behind a screen, they become uninhibited.
Why is that?
They just...
You're the doctor here. Come on.
Well, because there's no immediate repercussions. Like, you know, if I go up to someone and say something I said online that was, you know, offensive, they can punch me in the face. Well, here they can't. The worst they can do is reply, right? And so people get really emboldened to make statements that they wouldn't necessarily say in person. And, you know, honestly, if you want to be a good communicator in social media, don't say anything you wouldn't say in person.
Right.
You know, everything is a record. Everything could be brought forward in a deposition. And, you know, you need to consider that this is a third-party app. And even if you have it marked as private, you know, that it's still a third party. So therefore that can be sued, that can be summoned, that can, there's still repercussions.
What?
But
You can be held accountable for what you put up?
You can,
Wow.
a lot
That's
of people,
a novel idea.
a lot of people, are like, well, I have the right to free speech. I'm like, yes, but you also have the right to consequences for that speech. And a lot of people tend to forget that second part. You have every right to be a terrible person. You have every right in the world. Now, is that worth it for you to be alone? Is that worth it for you to not have any valuable relationships? That's only a question you can ask or you can answer. So.
Yeah. Now, back to the family and holidays. Because that's a whole other rabbit trail we can go down a little bit more. But let's say someone has offended someone, and is it in your opinion, in your professional opinion, and having watched and studied a lot of this, is it better to go ahead and address it and get it, air the laundry and instead of just letting it simmer and boil and do whatever?
Well, the answer is it depends.
Yeah.
So if you all are really angry when when something is said, then you probably need to take about a 20-minute break and come back. Research on anger says it takes a minimum of 20 minutes to leave the body. And if you're saying things in anger, you're often going to say things you regret and perhaps make it worse. But if it's not something that's making people angry, if it's just very hurtful, yes, you should address it right then. And I need to be clear about how you address it. A lot of people just say, well,
not with a baseball bat.
No.
Okay.
A lot of people are like, well, I said I'm sorry. That's not enough. You have to take it a step further, and you have to own what you did, and you have to have changed behavior. So it's not just sorry I did that. It's sorry I did that, and then I'm not going to do it again. And then you have to enact that. But saying sorry isn't enough. You must have changed behavior, or it's not a real apology. But that changed behavior is going to speak more than the actual words of "I'm sorry."
Yeah, where do more problems come? Sitting around in the living room or around the dining room table?
It depends on your family. I mean,
and from an etiquette standpoint, should you shy away from a lot of that kind of stuff around the table anyway?
I would, from an etiquette standpoint anyway. But also, if your food is really good, you're going to be chewing and not talking.
There you go.
These things often...
So the key, hire a good cook.
Yes, have a good cook, have a good meal, and people won't be talking. But it depends on the family. It depends on when they address things. I would suggest never at the dinner table. It's going to spoil people's appetite. It's going to spoil people's meals. But again, also, if it's not relevant or if it's not important that has to be solved right then, why do you need to bring it up right then?
Right.
It's a holiday. Let people have their time. Let people rest. If it's something important to you want to discuss later, do it December 26th. Right? Don't do it on December 25th when everybody is happy. So just make sure that you're, again, timing the conflict correctly. And if you will not be able to sit at the table with these people unless you address it, then just keep it in for a little bit. Just keep it in.
Yeah. And also, if it's one person you've got an issue with and you're at a table of 12,
right? Is
it better to just, hey, let's go talk and clear this out instead of everybody sitting there being a party to it?
Yes, it is much better to approach that person separately and, away from all of this, and perhaps not even at that time. Like maybe set up a time to go to a coffee shop and chat. Maybe set up a time to meet separately outside of this holiday. But yes, it's always good to talk to people about something that's bothering you aside from other people.
Yeah, and obviously, if you've had a little too much holiday cheer, yes. Sometimes that greases the skids and loosens the tongue from time to time.
And in that case, you're probably going to have to apologize the next day. So.
Yeah, now, let's say you have a problem with somebody, and it is a family member, and you've kind of gritted your teeth and grinned and bared it and get through that. Or is it helpful to have another family member or even a common friend to kind of help mediate a little bit and to where hopefully nobody said, well, you're going to take his side or their side or whatever, but to help guide you through that path?
Yes, you can. It depends. Again, a lot of these answers are, it depends. And that's one of the reasons why communication is so complex, is because it does depend on who the communicators are, et cetera. So if you feel like you are not going to be able to express your needs accurately, or you get intimidated, absolutely have somebody there, preferably a neutral third party. If you feel like you will be bullied or they're going to talk over you or gaslight you, then absolutely have another person there. That's totally fine. But just make sure the other party knows, hey, I'm going to bring this person with me, simply because they can feel ganged up on if they don't know someone's there.
Yeah, don't surprise.
Right.
No, so, all right, good advice. And try to be nice to your family at Christmas time, folks. We're going to take a break on the Roundtable. Mary Beth Asbury from Middle Tennessee State University is here with us today. We're going to talking communication. We're talking family and interpersonal communication. We're going to get into business communication and social media communication, as well as a whole lot more coming up today on the Roundtable here on WGNS. Efficient 3-bedroom, 3-bath home located in the highly sought-after Black Fox Crossing neighborhood. Enjoy the convenience of 2 primary suites and a 2-car garage. Recent updates include new flooring in the living areas and bedrooms, as well as fresh paint throughout. This home comes fully equipped with appliances, including a washer dryer and an extra fridge in the garage. For more information, call Chip Walters at Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates, 615-542-1915.
Celebrate Christmas downtown, the official Rutherford County tree lighting event on December 6, 5 to 8 p.m.
Sarah Callender with Main Street Murfreesboro.
Dancers, singers, live reindeer, horse and buggy rides, free games and crafts for children.
Bring the family downtown, Friday, December 6 at 5.
Santa lands at the courthouse to turn on the Rutherford County Christmas tree lights.
Free photos of Santa in the courthouse 7 to 8 and a movie playing outside.
Holiday memories with your loved ones.
The lighting of the Christmas tree and more. Friday, December 6 at 5. Visit MainStreetMurfreesboro.org.
The city of Murfreesboro is growing, and we need your help to prove it. This is Mayor Shane McFarland, and participating in the special census helps ensure we get the funding we deserve for essential services like road paving, sidewalks, and parks. It's easy. Just visit MurfreesboroCensus.com, fill out the secure form, or complete the special census letter coming to your mailbox. Remember, every person counts.
Count me in.
Okay, count me in.
And count me in too.
Let's make sure Murfreesboro gets its true share. Complete the special census today.
Rutherford County is one of the fastest growing communities in Tennessee. This is Mike Klassen, the general manager at Middle Point Landfill. As a Class 1 landfill, Middle Point accepts non-hazardous municipal solid waste, approved special waste, and commercial waste. We have served this region for 2 decades, providing free disposal to all Rutherford County residents and low-cost disposal to Rutherford County businesses. Learn more at middlepointlandfill.com. For public services, we are sustainability in action.
Fill the halls with shouts of winning, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be giving, fa la 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 la. Instant games to friends and family, fa la 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 la. Join the joyous cash prize carol, fa la 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 la.
With top prizes up to $500,000, holiday instant games from the Tennessee Lottery make grand gifts. Find them at your nearest Tennessee Lottery retailer today. Please play and gift responsibly.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and AmeriCare Pest Control.
I've got pests.
AmeriCare Services Incorporated, family-owned and operated. For residential and commercial customers, we offer a full range of services. Our services include one-time, monthly, and quarterly pest control, termite control, moisture and fungus control, automatic foundation vents, and more. Licensed, insured, and bonded for your protection. 893-7111.
Call the best of the best to get rid of your pests.
AmeriCare Services Incorporated.
It's the most wonderful time of the year. And WGNS Good Neighbor Events let you know what's happening. This is the big Christmas Parade weekend. The Laverne Parade of Lights and the Eagleville Christmas Parade are both this Saturday night at 5. Laverne's Parade of Lights includes a whole lot more. Laverne activities begin at 3 o'clock this Saturday afternoon with the Winter Festival. And then the Laverne Parade starts at 5 o'clock this Saturday night. That's not all. Both the Murfreesboro and Smyrna Christmas parades are on Sunday. Smyrna's parade used to be on the first Sunday, with Murfreesboro's on the second. But this year, they both ended up on the second Sunday. Not only are they the same date, they're the same time. Both Murfreesboro and Smyrna's parade start at 2 o'clock this Sunday. And the Grand Marshals of the Murfreesboro Christmas Parade, MTSU Lady Raiders Associate Head Basketball Coach Matt Insel and his dad, the head basketball coach Rick Insel. We'll see you at the Christmas Parade Sunday. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Chip Walters here with Exit Realty Bob Lamb and Associates. I was named a top 10 agent in the #1 Exit Realty office in America in 2021. The top question I get around town, how's the market? Good question. And the answer's changed a few times this year alone. I'd like to know what you've heard and share some solid data we have. Give me a call and let's have a cup of coffee and take a look at what's happening in your neighborhood. All my contact info is right on my website, choosechip.net. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb and Associates.
Rutherford weather.
Partial sunshine develops here this afternoon. We'll see a high in the mid-50s. For tonight, a slight chance for rain, cloudy, a low near 26. Thursday becoming sunny, high of 38. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently, it's 36.
We're powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from your friends at MTE. May your holidays be full of light, laughter, and cherished moments. Here's to a joyful season from everyone at Middle Tennessee Electric.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back into the Roundtable, and we are communicating with you today over WGNS. And if you miss any of this and want to go back and listen to it, you can, the podcast, video and audio will be on WGNSradio.com under the podcast section. Dr. Mary Beth Asbury joining us today. She is the chair of communication studies at MTSU, and we were talking about awkwardness with family situations and how to deal with those, and got some really good advice there. I was looking at your resume and areas of expertise, and one of the things that you've dealt with a good bit in your writings, and also with a lot of the things you've talked about is being stigmatized.
Yes,
and also for people who have had weight issues, how to deal with things like that. Kind of tell me what brought you to that, and how that you think with information that can help folks.
Okay. So it kind of stemmed from my personal life in graduate school. In my PhD program, I had a student who had an interaction with me, and it really disturbed me, and it really affected how I slept. And one of the reasons why sleep is so important is that it helps you make that feel-good chemical serotonin. And if you're not making that in your sleep, one of the ways you can artificially make that is by eating high-fat, starchy foods. And so that's what I did, and I gained a lot of weight very fast.
Thanksgiving foods.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I noticed that sort of the bigger I got, the more it seemed like the more invisible I became. Like, people didn't want to talk to me, people didn't want to interact with me as much. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? And so I started doing research on it and started looking at weight stigma and and its effects and how we develop it and why we develop it. And that's one of the reasons why I got into family communication, because I found that a lot of this weight stigma develops in the family, that it's ingrained since we are very, very little, messages about our bodies and what is good and what is bad, etc. And so right now, I look at stigma in a variety of ways. I look at it primarily right now with family communication patterns. I also look at it in dating. So, for example, how, let's say you've lost a bunch of weight.
Right.
And you go out on a date with someone. When do you tell them you've lost a bunch of weight? How do you tell them? Does it matter how you lost the weight? A shot versus exercise versus surgery, etc. You know, does that change their opinion of you and your willingness to date those people? I also look at it in terms of social media posts. So, you know how they have the hashtag Fitspiration, and they often hashtag Fitspiration is when they often post a picture of someone who's just completed a workout, and they tag it as Fitspiration, meaning fitness and inspiration coming together.
Right.
And it's usually someone who is typically looks fit, right? Well, what happens if someone who is not typically fit posts Fitspiration? And does that affect how people see it and how what people would do with that information? So would it inspire you, or is it going to provide you with more negative comments? So those are some of the things I look at.
And how much of it, let's say you are a person who is diligently trying to work, go to the gym or whatever, but you feel like, everybody's looking at me or things like that. How do you, what advice do you have for people to to get that out of their head and go ahead and work, keep the focus on what your goals are?
I would say that 98% of people are thinking about themselves. What do I look like?
They're not. Get over yourself.
Right.
They're not looking at you.
Well, it's very much and I've talked to people who.
But there's a self-consciousness.
There is. I mean, I've talked to people who are, typical gym rats, and they have said multiple times, I would never think anything bad about someone who is actively trying to improve their health for anything. But, for the people who are that way, find the times that you're comfortable to go. So if that's super early in the morning when most people aren't there, maybe that's a way to start and get into it until you get used to the machines, used to what you're doing. And then maybe that confidence can grow as you start to find your way around the gym. Because I think a lot of people are intimidated. They think people are looking at me because they don't know what they're doing or how to do it. And so, asking for help, asking for the people who own the gym or work at the gym, how does this machine work? What do I do? Those things can be really helpful at lessening that anxiety in terms of actually going to the gym.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. This is not exactly that, but, I've been there, done that. But what was it? Monday night, I was involved in a bowling event, and this was a fundraiser, quote unquote, celebrity bowling event, and I was put with a group of people who I didn't know, but so I was in with them. Turns out they all are in a league together, and they bowl every week.
Right.
I bowl once a year at this event, and so there's a self-consciousness of that even of but the thing was with those people, and I think this is probably more so the case than not. I said, I don't want to drag you guys down or whatever, and they said, and literally they all bowled over 200 in this game that we were in, and here I am at about 100, and I'm proud of that. But they were very encouraging to me, which they said, hey, this is great. Said we love bowling, and we love to be out here and encourage somebody who's not a regular bowler. So I think if you are someone who is a fit gym person, and you see that the person with a weight issue that's coming in and trying to address it, be helpful to them.
Yeah, be encouraging. Hey, do you need some help with this? Do you need a spotter? Like those things go very far.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that going on, and so that is what can an individual do to help clear that stigma and self-consciousness out of their own mind?
Oh, they're going to have to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's probably going to have to do a lot of, you'll probably need some therapy for that. But also, saying the encouraging messages, finding a gym buddy, or, finding people around you who encourage you and don't break you down. A lot of people stay in relationships, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships or what have you, because someone's there. And if that person is bringing you down, that's not who you need to be around. And you don't need to be around the people who make you feel bad about yourself. That's going to reinforce the stigma. Find people who build you up. And that's going to go far with helping you reduce that self-consciousness.
Yeah. So there's good advice there as well. One of the things, again, noticing off of your I pulled this off of your email signature.
Oh, okay.
How about that? Certified mental health first aid trainer and instructor, and there's probably, and this kind of ties in with stigmatisms and self consciousnness. There's never been a bigger emphasis and awareness of people who are struggling with their mental health than right now. And and here I'm a bit of an older head and grew up to where you didn't talk about that was you've got to be strong, you've got to do this, you don't talk about things that you're struggling with, and again, here's the perfect time of year to where people have those kind of things creep up in their minds.
Yes. So we have the seasonal affective disorder. So, when it gets colder and the sun's not out for a long time, people often get seasonal depression. But, mental health is important for everyone. I will never forget someone, I said, I think this person is depressed. And they said, well, they're not crazy. They're just depressed. And I was like, right. You're not crazy. Like, let's try to eliminate that from our vocabulary. But, mental health is something that is incredibly important. And we see a lot more issues, especially with students today. But I think it may not be students are more, having mental health challenges right now. It's just that they have the language to talk about it that perhaps the previous generations did not have because it wasn't acceptable. And so they're able to get the help they need. There is never anything wrong with asking for help. A lot of people are like, well, I don't want to see a shrink. I don't want to get on medication. Well, you don't have to do either of those. If you talk to your primary care doctor and say, here's how I've been feeling lately, they can help you. Sometimes therapy is all you need. You don't need to get on medication. And that's a lot of the things that keep people from seeking treatment, is because they think they're going to have to see a special doctor, get on medication. And that's just simply not true. Also, you can do self-care things to help you. So exercising builds that endorphins, and also
I was going to say, good tips this time of year. Schedule yourself.
Yes.
You talked about exercising, get out, walk, do that kind of thing. Well, it's when it is dark and cold and windy like it is today, it's easy to stay inside and not do that.
Right. So, find something you can do inside. There are all kinds of workouts on YouTube, and a lot of them are just walking around. They're low impact and, or just do your chores, but just kind of at a faster pace. The stress hormone cortisol, the thing that kind of makes us feel crazy and feel amped up, it actually can only be released through the body through water. And the primary ways are sweat and tears, which is one of the reasons why you feel better after a good workout. Because,
or a good cry.
Yes, or a good cry.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid to do those things. Also, if you have any hobbies, one of my hobbies is simple. I like to work jigsaw puzzles and listen to audiobooks. And that's exactly what I need to just calm down and not think about anything for a while. And then, there's self-help books, there's groups, there's all kinds of options if you don't want to go the medical route. But again, make sure you are surrounding yourself with people who you are not afraid to talk to, people who would be concerned if you shared those things, and people who are genuinely kind to you, because that's going to go far as well.
Do people, are people in general more open to talking about those issues with a friend or a coworker who is wouldn't say like their best friend, but someone that they're comfortable with, or a family member, as we kind of go back to this overarching topic of family communications?
And again, the answer is it depends. Who do you feel closest to? Who do you feel, if you tell these things to, is not going to dismiss you and say, oh, that's nothing, or I've had it harder, or think about the starving children, right? People who dismiss those things. Pick the person that you trust, pick the person that you feel safe around, and that's who you go to with these things, whether that's a coworker, a friend, a family member, etc.
Now, with the family gatherings coming up, what should you do? Let's say you are in the family gathering, and whether you're having dirty Santa or whether it's eating or whatever, and you notice somebody's withdrawn or you see some signs, should you be proactive with them?
Yes, and one of the things that we teach in mental health first aid is that you talk about how you've noticed people's behaviors, because those are things they can't necessarily deny or say, oh, I'm just tired or what have you. But things like, hey, I notice you aren't as happy. I notice that you're separating yourself. I notice this, and these behaviors. And don't say, I think you have a mental issue. Just say, I've noticed these behaviors. Is everything okay?
Right.
And if they say yes, then, yes, I'm just thinking about, okay. But let them know that they don't have to talk to you about it. But, make sure they have someone in their life, and that if they want to talk to you later, you are open to having that conversation.
Gotcha. All right. Mary Beth Asbury joining us today from MTSU. We're going to take a break and be back with our final segment of the Roundtable today, right here on the Big G, WGNS.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-457-6060. That's 1-800-457-6060. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-457-6060. That's 1-800-457-6060.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
This holiday season, let's make it magical with First Shot Foundation's Christmas for the Kids. Help bring Christmas joy to Rutherford County kids who need it most. Your support helps provide toys, warm clothing, and a reason to smile. Several local leaders have offered to match funds for the first $10,000 raised, so every dollar you give means $2 for local kids. You can be the reason a child's eyes light up with excitement this Christmas. Go to First Shot Foundation on Facebook to find out how to give. That's First Shot Foundation on Facebook.
At Bud's Tire Pros, we sell all major brands of tires, and we invite you to stop by today for that next set of tires. Or maybe you need us to check out your vehicle before you head out of town. We offer everything from brakes to batteries, alignments, and more. No appointments necessary, just stop on by.
I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
For 75 years, Murfreesboro Medical Clinic has been a cornerstone of health and compassion in our community. From our humble beginnings to the advanced, comprehensive care we offer today, our commitment to you has never wavered. With 8 locations across Murfreesboro and Middle Tennessee, and over 100 physicians, we continue to provide the highest standard of care. Then, now, and always, your health is our mission.
Just in time for Christmas, Bell Jewelers is having their Jude Francis Trunk Show Saturday, December 14th. It is one of our most popular lines here at Bell's because they offer all different price points, starting in sterling silver all the way to 18 karat gold, and even a mix of both if you like the two-tone look. One of the most popular things they're known for is their earrings. So come see us at Bell Jewelers on Saturday, December 14th for our Jude Francis Trunk Show.
Right across from Toots.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at WGNSradio.com.
Welcome back into the Roundtable here on WGNS. Chip Walters with you from Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates and the Blue Raider Network. Mary Beth Asbury joining us today. She is the professor and chair of communication studies at MTSU, and we've been talking about a lot of family communications, mental health first aid, and being open and talking to each other. One of the things you mentioned during the break is that as much as there is power in words, good and bad, that there is a lot of value in silence.
Yes, one of the most underutilized types of nonverbal communication is silence. And this is especially true if you want people to talk to you. So Americans, or at least those in Western societies, tend to hate silence. They want to fill it with something. And so if you really want to hear an answer from people, then simply ask your question and remain silent. I don't know if you remember in school, if I ask a question and remain silent, eventually somebody's going to answer it.
Anyone.
And,
Bueller?
I usually say, I can do this all day. Somebody talk, and it makes people talk. So utilizing silence to make sure that you are listening to other people, to make sure that they keep talking is a really good communication key. It's not all about talking all the time.
But sometimes when the silence happens, it's like the silence becomes deafening.
It does. It can be very uncomfortable, but you have to get comfortable with silence. And that's just a basic communication skill. Get comfortable with silence. And it's going to help you create more meaningful relationships because you're listening more and you are giving space for others to talk and share.
Yeah, great tip for families and interpersonal communications. Not a great tip if you're on the radio. Silence is not. So now let's turn our attention to business communications, and you have a lot of students who, as you know, they're working to get their education, getting ready to go out into the world of and get that first job. And they've got to need communication skills. Are you seeing interpersonal communication skills as good, not as good, better than you did when you first got into this field, or maybe when you were in college, because of all of the digital communications that we have now?
I will say that I started noticing a marked decline after the iPhone came out. And I started teaching in 2006 and the iPhone came out in 2007. And so every year after, it took about 3 years, but at the time I was teaching public speaking, and before that time, not a lot of people had problems with eye contact or giving eye contact when they're, doing a speech or when they are shaking hands or what have you. And I didn't really have to teach it because it was just kind of natural. But ever since about 2010, 2011, I've had to make a concerted effort to teach and talk about eye contact because people are just so used to looking at their phones. They're so used to, like, if you go into a restaurant and you are waiting for someone, no one's sitting there people watching. They're on their phones, right? And, I often challenge my students to go to, a store, go to a restaurant or something, and just put your phone down and just watch people. And, make eye contact with them, because if you can make eye contact with strangers, you can learn how to do that more effectively in your life as well. But just put the phone down for a little bit. But it definitely...
There's an anxiety level that comes with putting the phone down.
There is. And there's an anxiety level about looking people in the eye and having a conversation. A lot of people prefer to text because of that, because there's no face-to-face. So, it's a complicated issue and it's a complicated time, but we're having to go back and teach some of those basic skills that we would assume people, especially people who grew up with the technology, digital natives, would know. So how to write an email. Like, everybody assumes people know how to write an email. And, the amount of emails I get that are just like, hey, that, which is inappropriate, especially from a student. Or my favorite one was when I got, hey, lady, like, who are
really?
you?
Wow.
And so, people need to understand that an email is just a faster letter. So you need to have a salutation, dear whoever, use their title, use what have you, until they tell you to say something different. And then identify who you are, make your request, and then thank you or take care or sincerely, and then tell me your name. But people will just, send a hey and a question, and that's it. And I don't know who you are, because a lot of your emails, your names aren't matching the... if I get an email from honeybunny2@hotmail.com, I don't know who that is, right?
Well, and like, for instance, I'm typically going to say, if I send you an email, I may say, hey, Mary Beth, hope your day is going well, blah, blah. I try to say something before I get into the meat of it. Is that's
appropriate as well? Yeah, and also it depends on the level. Like, if that person is your superior, you're always going to need to use a title and last name until they tell you otherwise. If that person is on your level, or you're just sending a friendly note, the first name is fine as well. But again, it's understanding the context, understanding the situation, and you should vary your communication based on who you're talking to, where you're talking to them, etc. And a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah. So talk about the value of handwritten notes as opposed to the hey email or the hey text or the hey just snap me, or whatever. Talk about the value of that, and especially for the younger set who have really never gone through that.
Right. So there is a lot of value in a handwritten thank you note, because we get so many emails, because we have so much digital technology. It's rare for us to get that nice note. And so a lot of people treasure those. Those go really far. I will also say, though, that if you are doing something like an interview, like a job interview, you should always send a follow-up note or email, and because it just shows you're appreciative of their time. But I've also had students who their employer said it was between you and another candidate, and you sent a note, and you got the job. So, it's those little things. That handwritten thank you note can take you a very long way. But if you know that that company or whoever is mostly digital, they hate mail, etc., then send the email. But, a handwritten thank you note is very powerful.
Yeah. Any other handwritten type things that you encourage, when it comes to, how do you feel about Christmas cards as opposed to Christmas letters?
I like them both. I love Christmas cards. If you send me a Christmas card that has a picture on it, it is on my fridge for the whole year until you send me one the next year.
Okay. You like seeing your friends' kids grow up.
I do. And then I like Christmas letters, but it may be because I'm kind of nosy, but it also I just like hearing about people's lives. I like seeing what's going on, what you've accomplished, what you've done, those things they make me feel like I know you, maybe if I haven't seen or talked to you. I get a Christmas letter from a family of a girl I went to high school with, and I haven't seen this girl in 25 years, and I still get that note. And so I feel like I know what's going on. I keep up with her, and I personally love it. Now, a lot of people may be like, oh, I just throw it in the trash, but I love it. I'll keep him forever.
Okay, good. I've got, I've got boxes, I'll find a box to put every year's Christmas cards in, and I'm not good about tossing them out, and so they tend to stack up and all of that. But your students are, you're teaching them how to interview. Do you consider their resume part of their communication?
Yes, it absolutely is part of their communication.
And there's a lot of people probably are looking, maybe job hunting here as we move into the new calendar year.
Yes.
Give us some tips and tricks to make a good resume.
Never put your picture on a resume.
Never,
unless you are applying to be a model.
Well, so good.
It is. It actually. It looks unprofessional. It can lead to discrimination, unfortunately. And so we want to keep that off. Don't use fancy colors. Your resume needs to be, the content of your resume needs to stand out, not necessarily the format. Your resume should read top to bottom, left to right. I would suggest not using columns because it's not a newspaper. You have a sheet of paper. You want to read top to bottom, left to right. And, I see a lot of people wanting to make their resumes look fancy. And I'm like, you want to be fancy in the interview. You want to show off in the interview. You want the resume to blend in but show off in terms of content, what's actually on there. But a lot of people don't listen to me. And I've actually had students come back and say, I haven't been able to get a job. Can you look at my resume? And I said, well, I looked at it 5 times in class and you never took my feedback, so maybe go back to that and what I told you to do, and maybe you'll be successful.
And also that for those job hunters, and because when you go into the job world, one of the first things that that employers are going to do now is they're going to go immediately to see what you're doing on social media.
Absolutely.
So again, you're communicating to the world about yourself, and so again, what do you tell your students on what to put and what not to put out on social media?
The first thing before they do a resume, before they are even looking at jobs, I tell them to Google themselves and see what pops up. And is there anything on there that would cause pause? Are there lots of pictures of you drinking? Are there lots of pictures of you partying? Those things need to disappear. And again, you have to be careful with what you put on social media because, a lot of, I personally feel that kids have access to social media too early, and they're putting a lot of things on there that maybe in 5 or 10 years is going to look really bad. And so just be conscious and just say, does this make me look good or does this make me look bad? And, kind of go from there. And I usually tell students as a kind of rule, if you wouldn't want your grandma to know about it, don't be putting it online. Would you be embarrassed for her to find out? Then let's leave it in a text chain.
Yeah. Well, interpersonal communications has changed so much, as you mentioned, in the last 10 to 15 years. Where's it going to go in the next 10 to 15 years?
We don't know. That's the thing, especially with the advent of AI and, talking machines, etc. So it's going to be an interesting time in how that affects families, how that affects romantic relationships. I mean, everybody said social media was going to be the death of interpersonal communication, and it just shifted how we look at it. It shifted how we participate in it, but it's still there, and it's always going to be there because at the root of everybody is, communication. You can't form any relationship unless you have communication.
Yeah. So to circle back to end where we began, your bullet points for the holidays for families would be?
Be kind to each other.
Yeah.
Time conversations appropriately. If you are angry, don't don't say anything, take a break, minimum 20 minutes, and ask yourself once again, is it more important for you to be right, or is it more important for you to have this relationship?
Understand. All right, good info. Dr. Mary Beth Asbury from MTSU joining us today. Thank you for coming by. Today was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep, good to see you. Brian Barrett is coming up next. We've got women's basketball coming up at 10:30, men's basketball at 6 o'clock tonight here on WGNS. So have a great day, folks, and be nice to everybody, and be nice to your folks out there, and communicate well with them. We'll talk to you next week.